Notice, go back to verse number 7 again. It says, live with your wives in an understanding way. Dwell intimately at home. This is more than just the same address. It speaks of oneness, deeper companionship, closeness, and it's more than just sharing the same physical address. And the husband is to take the initiative in this task. The idea is making a home together with her. Men, we share with our wives both the drudgery and the ecstasy of marriage. We share with her not only the past, but we share the future. We share the joint uncertainty of not knowing whether or not today will be the last day that we will ever see that person alive again. Sometimes that thought occurs to me, and I don't like to be morbid about it, but there are times when I've walked out of the home in the morning and I've been in a rush to get over to the office or to get to a meeting, and I failed to kiss my wife. And thankfully, in those moments, the Spirit of God has at different times convicted me about this, and I've marched my rear end back in the house, I've kissed my wife, and I've looked at her and said, honey, I love you. I appreciate you. And as I walked out the door, I've thought this thought, you know, I need to be consistent in doing that, because today could very well be the last day that God gives her to me on this earth. It could be the case. What your wife wants, she wants to have that sense of intimacy. I want that. I want my wife to experience that. And when a husband loves his wife, he gives her that treasure of intimacy. And this is the simile that God chooses to use to explain the love that Christ has for the church as well. And yet, you know, sometimes some men, some of us, we just don't get it, really. Some guys don't get it. I heard this funny story about this couple that was married for 50 years. 50 years, that's a long time. Is there any of you men in here that have actually been married that long? 50 years? How about 40? Any men 40 years?
I was fine.
You were, yeah, that's right. You were, absolutely. You're right. Any for 40 years at this point? How about 30? Okay, we've got a couple of 30 years. Excellent. Very good. What a great accomplishment. I'm almost halfway there at 13. This couple had been married for 50 years, and they fought like cats and dogs for 50 years. And so on their golden anniversary, their kids got together and decided they were going to give them a present. You know what the present was? Cats and dogs. It was a trip for the two of them, I kid you not, a trip for the two of them to the psychiatrist. And so of course, the kids bought this for them, but what did they do? Well, they began to fight about when they were actually going to go. You know, and so they're fighting about who's going to actually call the psychiatrist to make the appointment and set it all up. And so finally the day comes, they agreed on it, and they arrive at the psychiatrist's office, and they sit down in front of this young guy who had just gotten out of school shortly before. So he was young, he was green, and here comes this older couple, married for 50 years, fighting like cats and dogs the entire time. And as they were sitting there in front of him, once again they began to fight. Because he said, well, no, you're going to tell him our problems. And she said, no, it's your responsibility to tell him our problems. So here the fighting in front of the psychiatrist begins all over again. And so here's this young, green psychiatrist, and he thinks to himself, I'm going to practice some shock therapy. I'm really going to do something here to get their attention. So here's what he does. He stands up, he walks over, and he grabs that older woman by the shoulders, looks her in the face, and then proceeds to plant a Hollywood kiss right on her mouth. Well, you can imagine, everybody was shocked, right? And then he turned and he looked at that husband and he said, now, sir, that's what that woman needs 3 times a week. The husband looked at the psychiatrist and said, I can bring her by Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. See, some of us never get it, do we? Some of us never get it. And I thought about that story, and I thought, it's really our responsibility to give to our wives the greatest intimacy that they will ever know on earth. Again, look at 1 Peter 3:7. It says, live or dwell with your wives in an understanding way. That leads me to the third thought this morning. Here it is. When a husband loves his wife, Not only will he give to her her greatest sense of security, humanly speaking, and not only will he give her the greatest sense of intimacy she will ever know, but thirdly, when a husband loves his wife, he gives to her her greatest sense of identity. Her greatest sense of identity. Live with your wives in an understanding way. Men, you need to discover her deepest longings, her fears, her hopes, her plans. Your conversations need to be directed and designed to know her. Learn so that you can love her. Explore the deeper recesses of her heart so that you can understand her. It should be your goal to see her develop into all that she can be by God's grace. It should be your goal to see her dreams fulfilled. I read this poem and I really like it. I want to give it to you. It was written by a woman to her husband, and she said this: I love you not only for what you are, but for what I am when I am with you. Not only for what you are making of yourself, but what you are making of me. I love you for the part in me that you are bringing out. I love you for passing over all the foolish, weak things that you can't help dimly seeing there, and for drawing out into the light all the beautiful belongings that no one else had looked quite far enough to find. I love you because you are helping me to make of the lumber of my life not a tavern, but a temple. It's good. This is the power that we have, man. You possess this power as a husband. We get to love them in such a way that in a strange way, she finds out who she is and discovers all that she can be because of your love, because of your care for her. When a husband loves his wife, he gives to her her greatest sense of identity. This is so true. Last night, Julie and I, we had a little date together, and you heard that I'm a car guy. I like cars, okay? And so one of my favorite things to do on a Friday night is I like to go, and this may sound crazy to some of you, but I like to go and cruise Woodward Avenue. And like the Woodward Dream Cruise every year is it's literally a dream come true for me, okay? I mean, I go there every year to the Woodward Dream Cruise, and I tell my wife, jokingly, because I usually get there early in the morning on the day of the Woodward Dream Cruise, and I find myself a seat out there and hang out with some friends and that kind of thing. And it is about 12 to 14 hours of just absolute car lover ecstasy. You know what I mean? It's every imaginable beautiful muscle car that Detroit's ever put out is going up and down the road, and the smell of race gas is filling the air, and all the environmentalists are getting really upset. And burned rubber up and down the roads. There's something about that I just absolutely love. And I tell her jokingly every year when the Dream Cruise comes around, okay, it's time for my yearly fix, honey, okay? So I want to go out there and enjoy that. So last night, Julie and I, we went together. My oldest daughter now is old enough to babysit, and so she babysat the other two for us, and we went together last night to Woodward. And my wife, she's not a car lover, okay? She enjoys cars only to the extent that she knows her husband likes them, and so she literally just goes along for the ride. You know what I'm saying? And she likes it because I like it. But last night we were driving back, and I said to her as we were driving, I said, honey, I said, you know, I want you to know something. I really appreciate so much your willingness to participate with me in this, because I know this doesn't really do much for you, and it's not that exciting to you. And she said to me, she said, you know what? She said, I'm just glad that I'm able to be here with you. And I was reminded of this thought that for a wife, man, when we're loving our wives the way that we should and ought to be loving them, we have the potential to give to her her greatest sense of identity.